Hello, it's Security Weekly News. You've been breached, I've been breached, we've all been breached together. Microsoft, the dead come back to life. The IRS is investigating you. Yes, you. Jason Wood and more on Security Weekly News for the week of 4 April 2021.
This is Security Weekly. For security professionals, by security professionals.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for Security Weekly News. Cyber criminals are working overtime. They're leveraging activity around the COVID vaccine to disguise phishing attacks, hoping to steal money or personal information from your employees or customers. The Barracuda Email Threat Scanner is a free tool you can use right now to help protect your business and ultimately your reputation. The Barracuda Email Threat Scanner analyzes your Office 365 accounts and identifies malicious emails that slip past your gateway and into inboxes. Find the cybersecurity threats hiding in your Office 365 email. Use the Barracuda Email Threat Scanner for free right now at securityweekly.com/Barracuda. We're proud to announce CISO Stories, a new podcast series in partnership with Cybersecurity Collaborative and Cyber Reason. CISO Stories features the candid perspectives and experiences of frontline senior security executives and dives deep into timely security topics. CISO Stories is hosted by Todd Fitzgerald, VP of Cybersecurity Strategy at Cybersecurity Collaborative, and Sam Curry, Chief Product and Security Officer at Cyber Reason. Listen weekly as they speak with extraordinary CISOs by visiting securityweekly.com/CSP.
All right, the news. So this is kind of an old story, but it is an interesting one. I think it's from in March. But the article is about something called Operation Hidden Treasure, which is being conducted by the Internal Revenue Service. So I thought that caught my eye. I was like, okay, this cool name, whatever. So the operation is apparently targeting you, not reporting that nasty cryptocurrency you've been using. One of those things people never think about is that virtually just about everything is taxable. I mean, did you buy a used Dell Optiplex from some guy named Bert in an alley behind the Port Authority? You probably owe sales tax to the city of New York. God knows how you pay it, but I bet there's a way. Did you sell a used motorcycle at a rest area in Connecticut to a guy who offered to pay you in Danish krona? Guess what? You probably not only owe U.S. taxes, but you probably owe some in Denmark. How about that $35 you won playing craps in Las Vegas? Oh, yeah, that's definitely supposed to be reported. But even this free cigar I got from Paul, actually I got this from Joe, thanks Joe. Well, that's called use tax or something like that. So you're probably supposed to pay taxes there. They can even tax stuff you don't even get. Like you get a tuition waiver, they'll try to tax that and say you have to pay money you never even received. Well, the IRS doesn't spend too much time trying to chase down free cigars that you get from Stogie Geeks. But, crypto, it's big bucks, right? So the IRS is probably getting nervous that maybe people could use cryptocurrency as a way to circumvent taxes. Imagine that. But it is hard to track. So Damon Rowe, the director of the IRS Fraud Enforcement Office, said that crypto fraud will be a priority going forward, and they're planning to train agents to look at blockchains to seek tax evasion behavior. And they're planning a joint venture with Europol because I don't know if you know this, but in Europe, you also have to pay taxes. But in a comment at the conference where they were presenting all this, Carolyn Schneck, the National Fraud Counsel to the IRS Office of the Chief Counsel, well, these titles, they said, these transactions are not anonymous. We see you. So, okay, so you've been warned. Pay those use taxes. Now, I haven't really been reporting much on leaks lately because they're just about as common as misbehaving congressmen, wink, wink. But this one is a whopper. More than 533 million Facebook users' personal information was posted to a public forum on the dark web. Credential stuffing is the easiest way to get into things, right? I mean, why hack something or try to burn a 0-day when you could just log in with somebody's credentials? And, it really means that the value of being able to exfiltrate information about people is going up. Also because of social engineering and phishing and all these other kind of scams, people want that, that sweet data. So this was apparently part of the Ad Friend security bug, which was back in 2019, which basically allowed the exfiltration / scraping of Facebook credentials, and all those credentials were then auctioned off on the dark web. The current fee, according to the article, to access this data is $3. So I guess they're going for like volume discounts or something at this point. But the data set apparently contains mobile phone numbers, Facebook IDs, names, whatever was in your account, they were able to get. Facebook, in their defense, said that this was really old data, but 2019, I mean, did your phone number change since 2019? But anyway, you can send your people to Have I Been Pwned, which is a safe site. I went and checked it out, which is allowing for searches to see if you're in this data set. You are. I mean, if you have an email address and you've ever used it anywhere, you're probably in the data set. I mean, literally. But I don't know how reliable, the findings are. Mine shows that had been pwned by I think it was 25 different sites where my data had been exfiltrated from. Now, not that that's a huge issue to me because I don't reuse those passwords and so forth, but it's probably resold. I mean, sites you've never even been on show up in there, which probably means one site sold the data to another site and so forth. Bottom line, ensure you use different credentials on every site and enable two-factor authentication whenever possible. And for absolute certain, make sure you have two-factor and a different password from anyone you've ever used anywhere on any site where you could suffer financial loss. Seriously. Since we're on low-hanging fruit today, feel free to make all the obvious jokes about that, but on Discord, just keep them amongst yourself. But a new campaign is targeting professionals on LinkedIn using fake job offers. So basically, it's a phishing attack, but it generates a link that's based on an existing listing. I actually said that, didn't I? An existing listing. And the existing listing then adds the word position onto the end. So it's probably a script. It just scrapes a position listing, sticks that on the end. And then the link itself is to a zip file that contains a fileless backdoor that you've probably heard of called More Eggs. And More Eggs is malware it's a malware as a service tool. So that basically allows the attackers to install other malware on your system later. And it's malware as a service in the sense that they will sell you this kind of access. So they go out, they get the access, and then they sell it to other people that need it. It wasn't clear from the article if there was some specific focus of this attack, or it's just like, hey, we're just collecting things to sell. So beats me. But anyway, be advised if you are looking for jobs or you get LinkedIn notices that have the word position at the end, and always check those links anyway, no matter how safe they look. Another new ransomware tactic has attackers now emailing customers of companies that have been ransomwared. I mean, it's really like they've set up and hired marketing departments to manage all this process of ransomware, and they probably actually have. So basically what they do is they want to let them know that if they don't encourage, and the letter basically says you should call and or write to the company, and they put the company name in there and everything, to encourage them to pay the ransom. Because if they don't, their personal data, which has been ransomware, is going to be released onto the dark web, and of course, that's going to basically make you suffer. So they're hoping that the customers will call and say, hey, look, I want you to pay this ransom, blah, blah, blah. They encourage you. They push the whole thing. It's just, psychology and marketing. So, hey, why not? Has Microsoft finally found the magic bullet to browsers? According to this story, the use of Edge, or edging as it has been called by other users, is up 1,300% this last year, since January 2020. So the new version of the Edge browser came out back in January last year and really started to take off. So, I mean, now here's sort of the interesting part of it to me. Edge is basically using the Chromium engine, so that's Chrome. And so they put a different wrapper on it. It can do all the same stuff that Chrome does. So this is like one of those things where you go like, well, there's this other product. It does all the things you want, but our product will do those things too. So you might as well switch because our product is the same. But might you indeed? So if you have the same product and it's just on a different platform and it comes bundled with the install and it's already set up and running, I can see a lot of people using that. For the longest time, Microsoft browsers were, and I always felt sorry for them, strangely. I had a weird kind of empathy for like this poor little browser app that was sitting there, Explorer, and the only thing it ever got used for was installing Chrome. It's like when that little robot asks Rick, and it says, "What's my purpose?" And Rick goes, "To put butter on my," and it just sort of droops. Yeah. But basically, people used Explorer to install Firefox and Chrome. But Edge actually seems to be gaining a foothold, although wait for it. So Firefox has been slipping, apparently, in the browser wars and has dropped now to only a 7.95% share by March of 2021, according to this study. And that put it below Edge for the first time ever. As of March 2021, so this is the fun part, Chrome still has 67% of the market. So a pretty good chunk. And it was followed by Safari at 10%. So there's a pretty steep drop-off from Chrome down to Safari. And then Edge was at 8%, and Firefox and some others were, on down below that. So, I don't know. Maybe Microsoft is starting to find a solution to why people don't use their browsers. I'm not going to say Bing, but I'll say Bing. Anyway, as long as we're on Microsoft Defender, so Microsoft Defender is another part of the Microsoft Octopi tentacles that are slowly working their way into everything. Basically, Defender's their anti-malware product, and it's continuing to expand. Defender is virtually embedded, and actually literally embedded in Windows 10, and it really can't be removed. And you can disable it, sort of, but you can't actually remove it. It's actually part of the operating system pretty much. Windows did announce that it will support Defender on ARM devices, as the Win 10 for ARM has been around since about 2017, and they've not provided Defender as a supported module in that, so now they're going to actually provide that. It's not surprising that Defender is going to be embedded in there as well. And, the name for that in the business world is vertical integration. And that's pretty good business strategy. So if it's already there and you get it for free and it's embedded and you can't even get rid of it if you want to, you might as well just use it, like suck it up. There's definitely a lot of studies being done about, this malware or anti-malware versus that anti-malware and so forth. Being a long-time user in the field, I do have a lot of techism bias, I guess, against Microsoft, even though I pretty much have all their products installed somewhere. It's really hard to get over Windows 3.0 and Windows ME and all these other things that came out back in, the dark days. And, you kind of feel, but, it's there, so why not? So Twitter dropped several accounts this week, which purported to be Amazon warehouse workers. We don't call them that, though. Amazon is embroiled in this nasty labor dispute with fulfillment centers, which I always thought sounds like the name of those places in Soylent Green. Remember the movie Soylent Green? And like the people in the movie, when they decide they're sick of it, they go to this center and they play nice music and it's real comfortable, and then you die and they make you into food. Yeah, sorry, spoiler. But and they're FC ambassadors, which sounds like some sort of church youth center your parents made you attend, but you found out that you could meet girls there, so it wasn't really that bad. But yeah, but FC ambassadors, which is what Amazon calls people who work in the warehouse, which sounds a lot better than warehouse worker. But so the FC ambassadors. Anyway, it turns out that Gizmodo noticed that some of the account photos on this Twitter account were computer generated. In particular, Amazon FC Darla, supposedly an Amazon employee at the fulfillment center, is not a real person. So it was not a real picture. They said it was computer generated. The FC Ambassadors Army are Twitter accounts that basically talk about how great Amazon is and how much they just love their jobs. Like all warm and fuzzy. Everybody's so happy. Packing these boxes is just like, that kind of thing. So every company has this stuff anyway. But Amazon says the FC initiative was started to combat news stories which describe their fulfillment centers in negative ways. One famous FC ambassador tweet from Amazon FC Phil praised the center back in 2018, and this got a lot of derision, but his tweet said, "I can even use a real bathroom whenever I want." Yeah. So anyway, it's hard to imagine a giant corporation exploiting the media or exploiting their workers. But, this is part of the whole Alabama unionization campaign defense, and Amazon's trying to keep them from unionizing and so forth. Amazon has officially denied that people were forced to pee in bottles, in quotes, at work. But then they revised that tweet to say that they hardly ever have to pee in bottles at work. So, when we return, the amazing Jason Wood will join us. Stick around.
As technology continues to evolve and expand, so have the attackers that put our critical systems in jeopardy. Core Impact from Core Security is a penetration testing tool that safely finds vulnerabilities using the same techniques of adversaries, with certified exploits and wizards that guide you through critical pen tests while maximizing the time of advanced testers by automating their routines. With Core Security, you can safeguard your infrastructure by limiting access, detecting threats, testing for security weaknesses, and efficiently monitoring data. Visit securityweekly.com/core security.
When he was younger, he worked as a masked wrestler in Mexico under the name Volpatinga and was famous for biting off fingertips and spitting them into the crowd. After the tragic double chicken wing incident, he decided to retire and become a crusader for justice. Welcome, Jason Volpatinga Wood. How are you today?
I am doing well, but man, I almost lost it in the middle of that introduction.
Well, I was kind of mixing cultures together there, but
You were, but I've just started. I was having to fight to hold that one.
We aim to please here at the Fulfillment Center.
Absolutely. Always, every week. So, this week I was looking around thinking about what I would talk about, and this one, this is mostly just for fun. Maybe a little bit of information in it, but really this is just kind of amusing to me. Apparently the British government or the UK government has launched a brand new organization called the UK Cyber Security Council. And they put out a press release last week talking about their purpose and things they have going on. It sounds all wonderful. Their goal is really to improve cybersecurity careers, help get people into the field, and set professional standards for people who are working in the industry. It sounded a little bit like the ISC squared here in the U.S., where they talk about standards and this, that, and the other. But so I all of that was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. But what was kind of funny about this, and I picked this up from the Register, so you can imagine what this sounds like. They've already experienced their first very public, somewhat public crisis. Basically, they did a press release, has an email address in it that goes to a domain name that nobody registered. So somebody screwed up on that one, and that's what the Register talks about. They announced their new agency or organization, and they forgot to register the domain with it. Or as I dug into it, maybe they just put in the wrong domain name instead. So it was kind of funny. What happened here was basically the UK Cybersecurity Council, as it's called, has been in progress for a while. It was first documents that it shows up in are back about like 5 years ago, talking about, hey, we need to get people into security. We need to make sure they're doing professional things, whatever it is. So they have this plan that lays out their vision of where they want to go. And then, to quote, they want to develop and accredit the cybersecurity profession, end quote. So this goes on for a while. There are more documents created out there. They finally create and launch what's called the Cybersecurity Alliance, which is a group of different organizations that already existed and companies, organizations like ISC Squared, Crest, CompTIA, ISACA, a number of others. Probably my favorite one in the name of list was of organizations was the Worshipful Company of Information Technologists. Now, that one made me stop. I had to go look that one up because that just sounded like too much of a gag. It turns out this is actually kind of a serious thing. It's an organization in the UK that was started in 1987, and they actually have livery from the government and a royal charter and all kinds of stuff. The more you learn when you Google, I guess. I thought it was a snarky name, but obviously I've been in our field for too long. Anyhow, the UK Cybersecurity Council was set to launch last week on the 31st, and their press release contained the domain name of ukcybersecurity.org.uk. The problem is nobody owned it. And as you can imagine, all of us InfoSec nerds out there in the UK notice this. And so they start poking at it and stuff like that. And the Register, for example, has had a really good time lampooning this whole thing. But according to the Register, a guy named Adrian Kennard noticed this, and he actually registered it, the domain name, before anybody else did. He has a website set up saying, yes, this is not the site, and here's the email address if you are with this organization and you want to talk about taking over the domain. Apparently, he's been very polite and willing to get it over to them. As amusing as all of this is, what turns out is the domain name appears to be released, or actually it appears to be registered. What they did is they put the wrong domain name in their press release. The actual domain name was ukcybersecuritycouncil.org.uk. It was registered back in March 18th, 2020, but they still don't have a website on it. Apparently, maybe there's just an email address out there. If you go to that domain name, you just get an HTTP 503 error. I did go back and look at the original press release of the Register link to. That has been changed now to the correct domain name. So really, in all the run-up to launching this, they basically screwed up the domain name, and they probably really should do a web page to talk about some of what they're doing. Even if they're still getting started, it's really not hard to stand up a website. As much fun as this kind of is, and I'm laughing at the whole thing, the UK is doing some kind of cool stuff, I think, on a national level to promote information technology and cybersecurity as a profession, and get it in front of students to help kind of get that pipeline, if you will, building up of people who are interested in the field and have exposure to it. Last year, for example, I was a TA for a SANS event where the UK government had some kind of program set up. They had a bunch of students that went through this. They had to accomplish a number of projects and assignments. In the end, they actually got a SANS, these students were getting a SANS class. I was with them in the hacker tools, techniques, and incident handling, exploits and incident handling class. And they really rocked it. So it was kind of cool to see, this development going on over there, and getting exposure to this stuff. So that was a lot of fun. There are other courses for other folks of interest. So I look at this and I think, hey, this is a good idea. I like where it's going. I'm not sure how the payoff works for it, but it's still I'm interested to see how this turns out. Now, if they could just fix their PR issues, as the Register put this was a shouting cyber mega fail kind of thing. And so if you're going to do this, make sure you have a website and register this thing, and have the right email address in your press release, folks.
Yeah. 3 words, whitehouse.com.
You don't go to there on work.
Well, you can now. I actually checked that
one. Can now?
I checked that recently. Yeah, it actually goes to whitehouse.gov, but I actually was doing a lecture to about 2,000 people once when the internet was young. And I was like, for instance, you could go to whitehouse.com. And I typed it in, and it was on a movie theater size screen on each side of the auditorium. And yeah, it was pretty much full on gynecology. It was pretty grim. But it
close
got
that tab. Close that browser window.
It got kind of a laugh through the room in and among me thinking, I'm fired. Yeah, this is it. It's over. All right. Thanks, Jason. And finally, if you really, really, really want to reanimate your great-great-grandfather, a company called MyHeritage launched a tool called Deep Nostalgia, which is now in 5 weeks, so since it launched, animated 72 million old photos. So they use a deep learning tool called DID, and it is used to create animated photos that takes really old photos and makes them do things like blowing kisses, nodding, or, and this is a quote, even get down to a funky beat. Yeah. They look like those old newspaper photos in Harry Potter movies, where they have the animated thing on the front page. But anyway, if you just really, really want to animate old photos, I guess go crazy. I don't really want the 100-plus-year-old photo that is hanging in my living room, which is on the screen. That is my long-dead great-great-grandfather, DeVault. Hi, DeVault. And I don't want Duvall and Amanda, that's his wife, to wink at me when I walk in the room. I mean, maybe that's just me, but like if I walk in the room and Duvall is winking at me, I'm going to be like, I'm going to be scared. And I was terrified of this picture. If you're just listening, I'm sorry, but if you can see the picture, when I was a child, I used to have to sleep in a room when I visited my grandmother, and this picture was hanging over the bed. And it's an actual photograph from like, I don't know, I think it's from like the 19th century. But when I inherited this picture, and my daughter was afraid of it. So it's terrified multiple generations of people. And if it starts moving, well, just, oh, hell no. I mean, I'm going to throw the thing on the fire. Thanks, Jason. I'm Doug White, and I am eligible to be vaccinated. And I actually managed to get an appointment, sort of. I did hear there's a guy on 8th and 26th selling something in a syringe. I don't know. Maybe that'll work. See you next time.